Программа ТВ ИНФОРМ.
Здравствуйте. На нашем континенте прибавляется количество независимых государств с президентами во главе. Предварительные итоги референдума на Украине. Более 90% поддерживают акт о независимости республики. Среди претендентов на пост президента лидирует Леонид Кравчук. Нурсултан Назарбаев всенародно избран президентом Казахстана.
Nazarbayev is going to be the new president of Kazakhstan, and Kravchuk in Ukraine. In Czechoslovakia, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Soviet Union, has handed over documents on the events of '68, and Scipio has been liberated. Here we have the American shuttle Atlantis landing ahead of time, and today in Moscow there is the free privatization of apartments taking place. Now, the referendum in the Ukraine showed that the Ukraine has become an independent state. There are 27 regions in the Ukraine, or as it's now called, Ukraine without the word the. The independence of the Ukraine has been confirmed, and as well as its new president. Roughly 84% of those entitled to vote took part. The overwhelming majority voted for independence, but the proportions were varied. In Kiev, 93% of the voters voted, 90% voted for independence, but in the Crimea, it was 54%. Leonid Kravchuk has received more than 60% of the vote, which excludes the possibility of a runoff election. In Kiev, 56.13% voted for him, and in the Crimea, 56.68 and 68/100%. Thus, the Ukraine determined not only its own fate, but the fate of the Union as well. Gorbachev considers that the Union is really not possible without the Ukraine. There's been a telephone conversation between Gorbachev and Bush. If the majority of voters in Ukraine vote for independence, then according to Bush, the recognition by other countries is a question of time. And the United States hopes for friendly relations with both Russia and the Ukraine. Hopefully, the vote will sponsor the participation by the Ukraine in the Union Treaty. The United States supports a unified Soviet nuclear authority and a nuclear-free status for the Ukraine. Those were the words of Bush when speaking to Mr. Gorbachev. Yesterday in Kazakhstan, the first presidential election took place. 88.2% of the voters who were entitled to vote voted. 98.7% of those voted for Mr. Nazarbayev as president. Here in Alma-Ata, we see the press conference offered for Soviet and foreign journalists. Mr. Nazarbayev stressed that he saw the election as confirmation of the support of the people with regard to the national question, the social program, a definite move of the Republic toward a market economy and support for international relations. He saw the Soviet Union and the subsequently as being a confederation with a unified transportation system, military, and communications. Yesterday, we took radical decisions. We decided to move decisively toward a market economy. We can't stand in place anymore. And we're going to develop a safety net, as we have been heretofore. I've issued a number of orders with regard to creating a social net for the poorer parts of the population. And the draft of the new orders are already prepared. We have a draft of a new law which will be confirmed at the next session of the Supreme Soviet, which will be on the 10th, with regard to authority in the Republic during the transitional period. So we're going to start acting immediately within this month. Mr. Gorbachev met with the acting mayor of Berlin, who is Mr. Dipkin, who is the member of the HDS party. They discussed economic cooperation at the request of Mr. Gorbachev. There was discussion of the Ukraine and the Kazakh election. Mr. Gorbachev congratulated both Kravchuk and Nazarbayev on their elections, and he stressed that it was necessary to begin unifying and renovating union structures. Other elections took place, preliminary elections for president in the Dniester Republic in Moldavia. Igor Smirnov was elected president in the primaries. He received 98% the vote, and 98% voted for independence. In the Gagauz Republic, Stepan Tepam was elected president, having received more than 90% of the vote. Moldavia does not recognize either of these geographical units, and they are part of the territory of Moldavia. Yesterday we have repeating elections in Abkhazia. The situation has gotten worse in the country, in the area. Prices are going up, and we have instability in the Republic. The residents of Abkhazia place their hope in the parliament, and the voters here are actively participating in the process. Today we can say with confidence that the bloc of social groups, which has the People's Forum, the Slavic Host, and the Armenian Cultural Center, and other organizations, have conducted in the parliament of Abkhazia. They've managed to get in a number of their parties, of their candidates, and they will play a large role in the future of the Republic, undoubtedly. Now a problem which touches upon all of us, particularly during the transition to the market, when prices and wages are suffering from a bigger and bigger gap. The Russian bank has stopped payment of the so-called 13th salary, whereby Russian Soviets received an extra month's salary every year. And Mr. Gerashenko, who was the chairman of the Soviet bank, said a number of Russian banks were doing that without coordinating their acts. The State Bank of the USSR received a telegram to this effect, and a number of organizations stopped receiving financing. Mr. Gorbachev, Mr. Yeltsin were informed of this. Here's the paradox. We have more and more money, but we can buy less and less. Buy the things we need to live normally without losing our human dignity. Our financial system is in a state of collapse. There's a total disintegration of the economy. And that's all we have to hope for by the end of the year. Here we have a very serious gap between the drop in incomes on an annual basis. Our budget is getting only 40% of what it should be getting, and that's an unheard of situation. Production is falling at a radical rate. We're short 40 billion rubles. The second part is the sharply rising expenses for the social safety net. Here, again, we have a gap of roughly 40 billion rubles. And then we have non-observance of the inter-republic agreements to the tune of roughly another 40 billion rubles. Today, Ivan Selayev and Robert Strauss, the ambassador of the United States, signed an agreement on credits to be extended to the Soviet Union. Instead of the 500 million, which we were supposed to have initially received, we asked, and it was agreed upon, that we would be given $600 million. And this operation would begin in 4 weeks, as we agreed upon, after the moment of signing the agreement. This is a very important amount of money, which will help not only in our problems and getting through the winter, but it will also help our economic programs. Here's some information without comment. We had a movement of the Council of Economic Reforms. Alexander Yakovlev said, he's the chairman of the society, that our society is getting away from a democratic path of development. Mr. Filatov denied that the Parliament had passed a new salary for the deputies. The minimal salary is supposedly 180. If they had raised the minimal salary for everyone to 342, then the deputies would get nine times the minimum salary.